From Wall Street to the Metroplex, this is 1160 AM KVCE, Dallas-Fort Worth's business authority.
The information provided during this broadcast belongs to the show host and is for general informational purposes only. Nothing that is discussed or taken as legal advice for any individual case or situation. This information does not and is not intended to create an attorney-client relationship, nor does receipt of or listening to the information provided constitute an attorney-client relationship.
Welcome to the Believers in Business Hour on KVCE AM 1160. It's time for Bar Talk with local trial lawyer Brad Parker, the attorney you want but hope you never need. Stay tuned, get informed, and get educated about your legal rights when you or a loved one have been seriously injured or harmed by the conduct of someone else or at the hands of an insurance company. Brad Parker has focused his law practice exclusively on trial work since becoming licensed in 1985 and is board certified in personal injury trial law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. And now, here's Bar Talk with Brad Parker, the attorney you want but hope you never need.
Well, thank you. This is Brad Parker, and this is Bar Talk. I've got a pretty exciting show for us tonight. I've got a good friend of mine who's a criminal defense lawyer out of Tarrant County, out of Fort Worth, Jerry Wood, with me. And we're going to talk about DWIs and the ramifications, both from a criminal standpoint and a civil standpoint, and all the costs that are associated with it. Jerry, welcome.
Well, thank you, Brad, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I want to remind our listeners that if they want to call in during the program and ask any questions they may have, please feel free to do so. The number here, I just put it away, is 214-787-1160. Or you can email me at brad@parkerlawfirm.com. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. If for any reason you can't get in, feel free to call me at my office. I'll be happy to put up Jerry's number if it's a criminal matter or if it's a civil matter. Call me at 817-503-9200, and we'll get those questions answered for you. I want to thank everybody for listening in on Believers in Business and remind you that tomorrow night we have the Family Law Hour with Frank and Donna, and then on Friday we have Money Matters. But let's get straight to the point, I guess, Jerry. I was looking and preparing for the show today. We see these things firsthand. We kind of see the trees, and sometimes we don't see the entire forest. I was looking back at some statistics put out by MAD, and one of the statistics that really hit me was that the average drunk driver has driven drunk 80 times before their first arrest. I guess my question to you do a lot of DWI work. What's your experience on the people that you've represented in the past?
Well, I'm not familiar with those MAD statistics, but that doesn't necessarily surprise me if, in fact, they are accurate. But I will say that DWI is the one crime that we have that touches anybody who drinks. And it doesn't matter if you're a professional, if you're a blue-collar worker, if you're an 18-year-old high school kid or college kid, if you're male or female, if you drink, and most people, and I won't say most people, but a lot of people do, and you drive, eventually it's going to touch you because you're either going to get arrested or somebody that you know is going to get arrested. And what we see here, at least in the Metroplex and certainly throughout the state, DWI, next to theft, I think DWI is probably more prosecuted than any other criminal activity. So if it doesn't touch you, it's going to touch somebody that you know, either your spouse or your brother or your parent or your child or someone. So you're going to be affected by it.
And on the cross side too, unfortunately in my line of work, I see the results of drunk drivers who oftentimes are involved in accidents. They hurt third parties. One of the most dangerous things we do every day is driving a car. And, of course, driving at night after the bars close or late in the evening probably increases those odds dramatically of being involved in that way as well. So there are across-the-board cost and consequences to this phenomenon that we have. And, I don't want to talk about it right this second, but I do want to focus a little bit later on the bars. What role do the bars play in over-serving folks? But, One of the things that has surprised me, or that I've heard and I don't know, is that we always hear this .08 as being the legal limit of intoxication. But you don't have to be .08 to be arrested for driving while intoxicated, do you?
Absolutely not. Because if you just think about it and use your common sense, when an officer pulls you over on suspicion, initially he has to have some reason to pull you over, and most of the time it's a traffic violation of some sort. But that develops fairly quickly into some suspicion that the driver may be intoxicated, either the manner that they were driving or the odor of alcohol that he smells when he has an encounter with the driver. At that point, there's an investigation made, and if he determines that the driver is in fact intoxicated, he can make an arrest at that point, and there has been no test to determine the person's alcohol concentration. In a few instances, there are portable breath tests, but they're not admissible in a court of law. But nevertheless, they will make a determination based on what they observe, the physical and mental faculties of the individual, and they'll make an arrest without having any knowledge of what the alcohol concentration of that person might be.
And I guess, too, we're not just talking about alcohol. You could be on prescription drugs and be guilty of driving while intoxicated.
Oh, that's absolutely correct. Even if you're given a prescription that somehow affects the normal use of your physical or mental faculties, and you take it in accordance with the doctor's recommendations, you take it pursuant to that prescription, if it causes you to lose your physical or mental faculties, even though it's legally prescribed, you can be arrested for DWI. That's no defense whatsoever. And certainly you can be arrested if you are intoxicated based on the consumption of illegal drugs such as marijuana, hydrocodone, and Xanax. Those are the ones we're seeing quite frequently.
When a person gets arrested for driving while intoxicated, there are a lot of consequences that go along with that. I think we just saw, or at least I saw in the paper the other day, there was a judge down in South Texas who was recently arrested for driving while intoxicated. So it goes like you were saying, it can happen to anybody and everybody.
The DA in Travis County in Austin was arrested last year or the year before that. I'm not sure.
It was
I believe it was
2013
last year.
during the session. It sure was. And, the consequences of how you behave after you're arrested can have an extremely important role on how you get out of there, not get out, but the repercussions of how you're going to be handled through the criminal justice system, I think.
Well, that's certainly the case. And again, if you do happen to get in that situation, my advice to anyone, if they could remember it when that happened, is just simply not to make a scene, not to be belligerent, not to do anything other than be very humble, be very meek, and just simply wait for your relatives to get you out of jail or whoever that might be.
Well, I guess the basic question comes down to is that we're all social creatures, and part of our social habits is drinking. We have restaurants, we have bars. The best thing you can do, I guess, is just not drive if you've had a few drinks. Take a taxi home or have someone drive you home. What is the number of drinks that you can have if you even know that typically you might be considered intoxicated or cause people to start crossing that line? Well,
just to follow up on what you were saying, I've heard for years, I've been doing this 32 years, I've been defending people charged with DWI for quite a while, and I remember some years back a statement by an attorney in some advertising that said the best DWI defense is don't drink and drive. And if we all did that, then I'd certainly be out of business or having to find another line of legal work to get into. But unfortunately, this being Texas and we use the roads like we do, and our car is kind of like our personal kingdom, we don't take advantage of cabs. And Uber, I think, is an excellent app to get on your telephone. And certainly if you're younger and you don't afford those things, you don't think about it. But to answer your question directly, typically one drink is going to and this has a ton of variables, so I don't want anybody to just say, well, Jerry Wood has said this is the magic number. But I would say that one drink is going to equal about a 0.02 or an 0.03, and that's going to depend on your weight. It's going to depend on your gender. It's going to depend on how much food you've had to eat. So that's
comes in that
about
range.
0.02 to 0.03.
Listen, when we come back, we're going to go to break, but I want to start talking about the cost, not just the social cost, but the out-of-pocket cost and the non-direct cost. So we'll be back in just a minute. This is Brad Parker. You're listening to Bar Talk, AM 1160 KVCE, Dallas-Fort Worth's Business Authority.
This is 1160 AM, KVCE, Dallas-Fort Worth's Business Authority.
Saturday mornings at 9, tune in for A Bridge to Care and Comfort, discussing caregiver issues and delving into all aspects of hospice care. Hosted by Army veteran Pete Prasad, a loving husband, father, and experienced respiratory care practitioner for 36 years, who has personally experienced the need for hospice care through the loss of his sister to cancer. This year alone, approximately 2.5 million Americans will die, and approximately 3 in 10 will need hospice care for their final weeks or months of life. A Bridge to Care and Comfort explores the emotional, psychological, and spiritual questions, as well as medical and financial ones, surrounding hospice care and caring for elders. Join us Saturday mornings at 9 for a program full of heartfelt, poignant, and humorous stories from families and staff. And most importantly, to learn why hospice care is so important to you, your loved ones, friends, and neighbors. A Bridge to Care and Comfort with Pete Prasad, your resource to compassionate end-of-life services. Saturday mornings at 9 on 1160 AM KVCE or online at kvceradio.com.
Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I impartially shopped the highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $23 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-579-9368. That's 1-800-579-9368. 1-800-579-9368. Or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
At Parker Law Firm, people matter. We have an unwavering commitment to people who have been seriously harmed by the negligence or wrongdoing of others. Our practice focuses on those who have been killed or seriously injured in major trucking or car accidents, or whose lives have been seriously disrupted by the bad faith conduct of an insurance company.
Hi, I'm Brad Parker, Principal Partner at Parker Law Firm. I'm board certified in personal injury trial law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. I'm also the immediate past president of the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. Our firm knows that when you or a loved one has been seriously injured in an accident caused by another person's negligence, you may not know where to go or who to trust. Our firm is built on years of trial experience, a tradition of personal service, and a reputation for zealous representation of our clients. We're dedicated to providing experienced and comprehensive legal assistance to individuals and their families during their times of need.
Let the attorneys from Parker Law Firm help you. Get a free consultation. Give us a call, 817-503-9200, or visit parkerlawfirm.com.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzzed driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzzed driving, because buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to 1160 AM KVCE.
Welcome back to Believers in Business Bar Talk with Texas Board Certified Personal Injury Trial Lawyer Brad Parker, right here on AM 1160 KVCE. Have questions? Get answers. Call in at 214-787-1160. That's 214-787-1160. You can check it out online at kvceradio.com. Brought to you by the Parker Law Firm.
Welcome back. I appreciate everybody tuning in to Bar Talk. I'm Brad Parker, the attorney you want, but hope you never need. I'm here with another attorney you want, but you better hope you never need him, Jerry Wood. Jerry Wood's a criminal defense lawyer in Fort Worth, and he specializes, or a lot of his practice is dealing with DWIs. And so he's here today talking to us about the costs involved and the consequences of DWIs. And that's kind of where we were, Jerry. Before we get started, though, I do want to remind the listeners, if they want to call in and have any questions, please feel free to do so at 214-787-1160. Or you can call me tomorrow if you can't get in tonight. I'm at 817-503-9200. And Jerry Wood would be happy to answer any questions you might have. You can always get Jerry, look him up, but his phone number is 817-338-4250. That's 817-338-4250. But Jerry, when we left off, we were fixing to talk about the morning after, where the costs start accumulating. What can someone expect from a financial point of view once they've been arrested for DWI?
Well, the first cost that's incurred is just getting out of jail. And typically you're going to have to hire a bondsman. There are some pretrial release abilities that sometimes the courts go through, but sometimes that takes a little long, and the families are ready to get somebody out. And so you can expect to pay a bondsman anywhere between $250 to $500, depending on how high your bond's set. Of course, you pay a percentage. You don't recover any of that money back that you pay the bondsman. And that's to guarantee your appearance in all the court proceedings that will follow.
And that gets you out of jail so then you can call someone like you and find out what's fixing to happen to you.
That's correct. And then your next, you are hit with some deadlines that come up pretty quickly. You have 15 days to file a notice to the state driver's license board in order so that they will not suspend your license. If you fail to file that notice requesting a hearing, then your license will be automatically suspended 40 days after your arrest. So you need to contact a lawyer almost immediately, or you're going to end up with a license suspension. So you're talking to a lawyer as you have to get out and interview some lawyers if you don't know one. Most people will ask around. My suggestion is to get some people to refer you to some lawyers. Don't go by advertising. You probably will receive 60 to 100 letters in the mail that will tell you many different price ranges and whatnot. But I would say ask around, go visit, make that your priority. You just got arrested. It's something that's going to affect you the rest of your life. And be comfortable with an attorney that you have. And the main question you need to ask that attorney is, do they try DWIs? Are they in the court? And not just in the court pleading them, but do they actually try them to juries?
Boy, that's the same thing I've been telling the listeners since we started this show, is in my line of work as well. There are so many people on the street corner that purport to be trial lawyers, but then when you really boil it down and look at how much experience do you have in the courtroom, how often do you really try these cases, or in your situation, are they just going to run you through a gin mill and plead you out on a case that maybe shouldn't be pled out, that could be really tried? And I know it's probably the same with the prosecutors as it is with defense lawyers. When they know Jerry Wood or Brad Parker tries lawsuits, your ability to negotiate with that other side increases dramatically.
There's no question about that, because if you tell them we don't like the plea bargain that you're offering, we'll go to trial, and they know you don't try cases, well, they're not going to change their plea bargain ever. So you want somebody that actually tries cases, is not just in the courtroom. All criminal lawyers go in the courtroom, but ask that person that you're interviewing with, how many cases do you try? How many DWIs do you try? How many times have you been before a jury? That's extremely important. And
then what can they expect? I mean, assuming they can find a lawyer that they like, what can they expect financially?
Well, it's my personal opinion that any good DWI lawyer is going to charge you a minimum of at least $5,000. And anybody that charge anything lower than that, you have to really be skeptical because of the work involved. And my opinion would be if they charge you something less than that, they're just simply running you through the mill. Like you say, it's kind of like a gin practice, but let's just see how many clients we can run through the system. So you can expect a minimum of $5,000, and most of your attorneys that are in the courtroom all the time are going to be charging you between $7,500 and $12,000.
Okay.
So it's expensive to hire a good lawyer, but it's worth every penny.
Well, and that becomes too, does the price increase based on your behavior? We were talking about earlier the DA in Travis County, for example. She, of all people who should have been well behaved, she was probably the poster child of what not to do. How important is it, those videotapes, the being processed, that you're behaving yourself versus being belligerent?
Oh, it's extremely important because all DWIs are videotaped. I mean, occasionally you'll have a situation where the video equipment is not working, or somehow the videos are lost, but that's extremely rare. So clearly, if you are acting up, if you are doing something that tends to show that you're intoxicated, you're not helping yourself. As to whether or not it affects the fee, I don't really think so. What primarily affects your fee is your past. Is this your first DWI or your second DWI?
Yeah.
Or your third? And I've represented people with as many as 6 and 7 and 8 DWIs. So,
wow. That's amazing. Well, of course, that's the easy cost that we can see. But you were telling me this morning when we were visiting about the program tonight about some of the non-direct costs. I think in particular your driver's license.
Well, as I mentioned, there's a hearing that occurs fairly quickly before the State Office of Administrative Hearings concerning your driver's license and the suspension of it. If you refuse to take a breath test or a blood test, then your license is subject to a 6-month suspension, either 40 days after you were arrested or immediately after a hearing. The hearing may take, as long as 60 days to have, maybe 90 days. So you're looking at a suspension. If your license does get suspended for 6 months, then you have costs of obtaining an occupational license or an essential need license so you can go to and from work. Also, if your breath test is more than, or blood test is more than a 0.15, then you can be required while your DWI is pending to have an interlock on your vehicle.
Now, what is an interlock?
An interlock is an ignition device that's placed in your car, and in order for you to start your car, you have to blow into that device, and if it measures any alcohol, it will lock you out of your car. In other words, your car will not start. So that can be placed on your car pending the outcome of your case if your alcohol concentration is 0.15 or greater, or if it's your second DWI, and certainly if it's your third DWI. And that is a cost to you. You have to pay for that to be put on, and you have to pay a monthly fee for it to stay on.
Well, not only that, but if you, if you're trying to keep this low profile, I guess the worst possible way of keeping it low profile is having an interlock in your car where anybody that rides in your car with you is going to know full well what's going on.
And absolutely. And I, again, screen my clients. We talk about what occupations they have. For example, if you're a real estate agent and you are having people ride in your car to destinations so you can sell them a house, you can't have them doing that with an interlock in your on your vehicle. Additionally, many salesmen and other type of people who drive their car during work.
What about truck drivers or commercial vehicle drivers?
Well, commercial vehicle drivers, that's a different story altogether.
Okay.
They're not. If their license is suspended, they're not allowed to drive their trucks in most cases.
So you could actually be a truck driver for UPS or FedEx, and you get arrested for DWI, you may well lose your job.
Absolutely. Seen it happen. You can be a school teacher if you are required to. If you're the basketball coach or the baseball coach and you have to take some of your kids sometimes be the bus driver, you can't do that, and that could interfere with your job also. So that right there, it's more than just I've gotten a DWI. And when we talk about costs, in the event that you're convicted, for a first-time DWI, the fine is up to $2,000. Most people are being fined between $650 and $800 for a first offense. And, that's a sizable amount for some people.
Well, it certainly is. And then if I understand now, we've got the cost of the attorney, cost of the bail bondsman, cost of the driver's license interlock device. And I understand there's also cost for driver's license as well. But we'll talk about that when we come back from break. This is Bar Talk. Brad Parker, the attorney you want but hope you never need. My guest today is Jerry Wood. This is AM 1160, KVCE, DFW's Business Authority.
The Business Authority, 1160 AM, KVCE.
Hi, it's Ken Rakowski from Business Rockstars. In a world filled with gurus and so-called experts, getting the right advice you need can be downright impossible. Giving our listeners the best tips and tricks for your vision is what we do. It's our passion. So don't miss another life-changing moment. Learn how to start, grow, and fund your business right here on Business Rockstars. Join me weekdays at 1 p.m. on 1160 AM KVCE, Dallas-Fort Worth's Business Authority.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been fired from your job? Well, I have. I believe my job was to take as much money from the consumer as possible and make a lot of money for the company. And then my new boss came along and let me know that what I was doing wasn't going to work anymore. We're going to make it all about the consumer. Needless to say, I got fired. That's what makes my job as the host of the Automotive Edge radio show easy. Sending you over to John Eagle Honda to meet General Manager John Ingram, the guy who fired me. At John Eagle Honda, no back and forth, and your transactions are recorded in the finance department to ensure the best process in the industry. Call John Ingram on his personal cell at 214-537-3350. That's 214-537-3350, or make the drive to 5311 Lemon Avenue. See why 40 years in business makes a difference at John Eagle Honda. Call 214-537-3350 or online 24/7 at eaglehonda.com.
When I first got out of law school, I went to work for a big downtown Fort Worth law firm. It was a prestigious job, but I never felt fulfilled professionally. Helping banks and companies, I didn't have that fulfillment that kind of drove me to be a lawyer to begin with. And the more I saw and learned, the more I realized that maybe being in the big firm wasn't the right thing for me. So after about 5 years, I went out on my own to kind of start doing some personal injury work and some what we call insurance bad faith, because you get the opportunity to help real people. Your efforts and your success makes a difference in their lives. And that is very satisfying and very rewarding to me. And it drives me every morning when I wake up to be able to help people. The rewarding times after a case is settled, the cards I get from clients, just to say, thank you, you made a difference in my life. I never really got that from the CEOs of the banks that I represented. It is truly rewarding to know that you've made a difference in someone's life and you've really helped them out.
The start of the season is right around the corner. So is your local Kubota dealer, where you can get a great deal on a new Kubota L-Series tractor right now during Kubota's Get Something Started sales event. If you're thinking about a rugged tractor with a cab for year-round comfort, then a new Kubota has your name on it. With a smooth-running engine, choice of transmissions, and spaciousness beyond expectation, your Kubota dealer is the place to start. Right now, get your own Kubota L-Series tractor for 0 down and 0% financing for up to 60 months. So if you're worried about green, think orange at the Kubota Get Something Started sales event.
Visit TexasKubotaDealers.com to find your local Kubota dealer. 0 down, 0% APR financing for terms up to 60 months on selected equipment now through June 30th, 2014. Not available for rental national accounts or government customers. 0% APR low rate financing not available with instant rebate offers. Financing available through Kubota Credit Corporation USA subject to credit approval. Other exceptions may apply. For more information, call toll-free 1-888-465-8268.
Would you like to own more real estate? Real Crowd lets you invest directly into shares of cash-flowing real estate. You'll get low investment minimums, no fees to participate, and the ease of investing online. It's real estate investing redefined at realcrowd.com/radio. Create your account and start investing today at realcrowd.com/radio. That's realcrowd.com/radio.
From Wall Street to the Metroplex, this is 1160 AM KVCE.
Welcome back to Bar Talk with Brad Parker. You can check it out online at kvceradio.com. Brought to you by the Parker Law Firm. Have questions? Get answers. Call in at 214-787-1160. That's 214-787-1160.
What you say? I won't pay.
Welcome back. This is Brad Parker. You're with Bar Talk. I've got my guest today, Jerry Wood. Jerry's a criminal defense lawyer out of Fort Worth who does a lot of DWIs. We're talking about DWIs and the cost associated with them, both from a financial standpoint, societal standpoint, non-economic standpoint. We kind of covered, Jerry, I think before the break, some of the financial costs, and we were kind of getting to the indirect costs, such as the interlock device, even though you have to pay for it, just the social cost and stigma associated with that. Let me ask you for a moment, what are some of the ranges of penalties if you are convicted of the DWI?
Well, the first time DWI is what we call a Class B misdemeanor, and you can face up to 6 months in jail and a fine of up to $2,000. Your driver's license can be suspended for up to a year, and the minimum suspension is 90 days. Okay. You can avoid those suspensions by being placed on probation. You can avoid jail time by being placed on probation. However, probation is just putting one foot in the jailhouse door. If you accept a probation, then you have to live your life under those terms and conditions, which we've discussed a little bit about. Right. You have to report once a month. You have to undergo evaluations. You have to take classes, and you have to report once a month. And you have costs incurred. You have to pay $60 a month probation fee. Many people have difficulty with that. So that in and of itself is difficult for some people. And if you violate your probation, you're subject to going to jail. Typically in Tarrant County, a first-time DWI will be given a 90-day jail sentence, probated for about 18 months, sometimes 2 years, and sometimes a little less than 18 months. If they violate their probation, they're looking at a 90-day jail sentence. So that's why I say sometimes it's like having one foot in the door. But
there's some other costs too that are associated with that, like for insurance. What is a conviction do to your insurance?
Well, they're going to go up, obviously, in the same manner that if you have a traffic accident and make a claim against your company, depending on how bad it is, you can expect an increase in your rates. And certainly with the DWI, they're going to be looking at possibly more liability for you as a driver, so your rates are going to go up. And I've seen them go up as much as 50%, sometimes even more than that, depending on your age. If you're a young male under 25, they'll double.
Well, and don't you have to have a special form or a special kind of insurance? I've heard
it's called an SR22, and you have to typically you have to file those with Austin, and they're a special form that costs you additional monies. So yes, it can get quite expensive. The other thing that people don't realize, and we've talked about the employment issues a little bit, but when you're convicted of a DWI, that conviction never goes off your record. And this is for any offense. And the conviction will stay with you. So if you make a mistake, and I tell people it's a hurdle that can be overcome, but nevertheless, if you get a DWI conviction when you're in your early 20s, there is no way to remove that conviction. So when you're in your late 40s, it'll still be on your record.
Well, and a lot of employers, I know, I've heard and seen, a lot of employers just won't hire you if you've got the DWI conviction. And the more recent, probably the less likely you're going to get the the job because they're just concerned about you.
That's absolutely the case. And for some young people, and I believe it to be unfortunate because we're punishing people for a lifetime when they make an unwise choice in their youth. If you're 21 years old and you're in college and you get a DWI conviction, you're prohibited forever from becoming a police officer, a fireman, an airline pilot, a railroad engineer, a number of professions for that one mistake. So I typically tell those people who have aspirations for such jobs that if there's a way to beat it, if there's a way to get out of it, if there's a way to contest it, we need to do that. And that's why hiring a good lawyer is so important.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the old adage, I'm sure, be careful what you pay for because you just might get it. If you get the cheap lawyer, you may get a cheap service, and the ramifications could be not insignificant.
That's correct.
Well, you know, the other issue to this, and the one I see all the time, is not the DWI driver, but somebody he's hit and injured seriously or God forbid, killed. How does the DA, the district attorney, view those kinds of cases where you hurt somebody in a car wreck, whether it's your passenger or whether it's a complete stranger? How does that change the landscape?
Well, first of all, those types of cases are no longer misdemeanors. Now you're going to look at being charged with a felony. And they don't have, the individual that is hurt obviously doesn't have to perish, but if they do, then you're really looking at some problems. But if they are injured, if they suffer what the law says serious bodily injury, then they are looking at a third-degree felony. And the punishment range for that is a minimum of 2 years to a maximum of 10 years in the penitentiary. And you're prosecuted very... they don't look very kindly on those cases at all. So,
well, you mentioned that you've been practicing law in Tarrant County now for 30 years, just like I have. What has been your experience in just the way the DA handles them? Are they more aggressive now because we know so much more about DWIs and driving while intoxicated, or are they just as aggressive now as they were, say, 20 years ago?
Well, I think because of external pressures, because of MAD, for example. Also, there is a societal movement that indicates that we ought to start learning not to drink and drive, and I agree with that. By the way,
oh, absolutely,
that's something that, in spite of the fact that I represent people who are charged with this crime, I think we all need to learn that, and because of those. I think society's changing its attitude about drinking and driving. I think they're prosecuted a little bit more vigorously. Now, there are other things that come into play, but you have to remember you were charged with a felony, and in these types of cases, you're not going to be given an opportunity to get a particular type of probation that we call deferred adjudication. And that's a probation, and I won't go into a lot of detail here, that keeps the conviction from going on your record if you live out the probation. That is not available for even misdemeanor DWIs, and it's certainly not available for any of the felonious intoxicated offenses that are out there. So if you get charged with intoxication assault or intoxication manslaughter, you'll not be given an opportunity to have a deferred, and you will have a felony conviction, which has a number of collateral consequences, the least of which, is possibly going to prison for it.
Something that we're starting to see a lot of, and that is the real campaign, not just to drink and drive, which we both agree is a great campaign. Mad's done a wonderful job in making us aware of that, but also texting and driving and using the telephone. I have seen studies that are out now that equate talking on the telephone to being legally intoxicated. In fact, there's a study out that shows that if you are talking on the phone, whether it's hands-free or handheld, your cognitive association and cognitive presence in driving is diminished just as if you had a .08 and driving down the road. And, I always tell my friends and family that listen to me, have you ever found yourself driving down the highway, you hang up the phone, and you look up and you go, where am I? Because you've just lost total absence of where you are. And I guess my question to you is that, Jerry, is we're seeing a lot of wrecks. I see a lot of car wreck cases and injury cases as a result of the driver texting or talking at the time of the accident. Does the DA prosecute those cases in Tarrant County?
I haven't seen them being prosecuted with any regularity, although I would think in the appropriate situation that would be something that they would consider. The charge in that case would obviously not be intoxicated driving of any sort because you don't have those facts. What the charge would more than likely be is criminal negligent homicide, when, essentially where you should be aware of a substantial risk and you've disregarded that risk. And certainly texting and driving is something that impairs your ability to drive, not unlike an intoxicated driver, but obviously for a different reason.
Yeah, and with the studies that are coming out, making us aware of it, it's going to be hard to say, as any driver that's graduated from gone to any class, that I didn't know this was dangerous. And so I don't know. We're going to come back, and I want to talk a little bit about bars and their responsibility on this issue. I'm Brad Parker. This is Bar Talk. My guest is Jerry Wood, AM 1160 KVCE, DFW's Business Authority.
1160 AM KVCE, Dallas-Fort Worth's Business Authority.
At Parker Law Firm, people matter. We have an unwavering commitment to people who have been seriously harmed by the negligence or wrongdoing of others. Our practice focuses on those who have been killed or seriously injured in major trucking or car accidents, or whose lives have been seriously disrupted by the bad faith conduct of an insurance company.
Hi, I'm Brad Parker, Principal Partner at Parker Law Firm. I'm board certified in personal injury trial law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. I'm also the immediate past president of the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. Our firm knows that when you or a loved one has been seriously injured in an accident caused by another person's negligence, you may not know where to go or who to trust. Our firm is built on years of trial experience, a tradition of personal service, and a reputation for zealous representation of our clients. We're dedicated to providing experienced and comprehensive legal assistance to individuals and their families during their times of need.
Let the attorneys from Parker Law Firm help you. Get a free consultation. Give us a call, 817-503-9200, or visit parkerlawfirm.com.
Is your 401k really making money for you? Let us teach you how to trade stocks within your own retirement account, tax-free. Turn this into cash flow you can use right now and even pay your debt off. And do all this safer than giving your money to your financial advisor. Come find out why buy and hold is dead. Learn to fly your own plane financially. Financial Flight School. I'm Pastor David Mitchell. I'm a fourth-generation family businessman in the ministry 30 years, and I've never taken a salary from the church. They call me the mentor to millionaires, but really I just teach money secrets the wealthy have hidden from you for 300 years. This $3,500 seminar is offered to beginners for just $99.95. Don't miss the most effective 2-day personal financial recovery event in America.
The next seminar is August 1st and 2nd at Crown Plaza North Dallas, 14315 Midway Road in Addison and Sheridan Fort Worth. 1701 Commerce Street. To register, call 877-907-TRADE. That's 877-907-TRADE, or go to nvows.com. That's nvows.com.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names.
Really? Yeah.
They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-806-0894. 800-806-0894.
I'm TJ. My mom is Basketball Hall of Famer Nancy Lieberman. Going to her camp taught me how to play basketball the right way.
Tell them, Mom.
Join us at the World Ventures Nancy Lieberman Basketball Camp.
We have 4 great sessions
this summer at Fieldhouse USA in Frisco. We'll skill, drill, we'll build your confidence and self-esteem. We'll take your game to the next level. Sign up, call 972-473-2121 or go to nancylieberman.com.
Brought to you by the Nancy Lieberman and World Ventures Foundation. See you there.
A quick reminder to make sure you are registered for the free Money Matters Retirement Seminar this Saturday at 1 p.m. in the Money Matters building on Dallas Parkway. If you're retired or retiring soon and can't afford to make up for any major market losses, it is critical to have an exit strategy in your retirement plan. Clients that followed Ken Marafe's advice did not lose money in the stock market crash of 2008. Seating is limited, so register now at moneymatters.net. That's moneymatters.net or call 800-994-0302.
DFW's Business Authority, 1160 AM, KVCE.
Welcome back to Believers in Business Bar Talk with Texas Board-Certified Personal Injury Trial Lawyer Brad Parker, right here on AM 1160 KVCE. Have questions? Get answers. Call in at 214-787-1160. That's 214-787-1160. You can check it out online at kvceradio.com. Brought to you by the Parker Law Firm.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I got Jerry Wood here with me. Jerry is a colleague, criminal defense lawyer out of Fort Worth, Texas. Does a lot of DWI cases along with everything else. We've been talking about the ramifications and the cost associated with the DWI and why it's just a horrible, horrible spot to find yourself in and why you need to avoid it at all costs. But, you know, one of the things I want to talk about real quick, Jerry, is you were saying during the break that you had a client recently who did the responsible thing. He had too much to drink and he went out to his car to sleep, just to go to sleep, yet he found himself on the wrong side of the law.
Yes, and he turned the ignition on, and even though he turned the ignition on and decided to sleep, that can be defined as operating a vehicle. And in that particular case, we had to try it to a jury. A jury found that he made no intention of driving the vehicle, and he was found not guilty. But he nevertheless suffered the consequences of going through all of those expenses and all of the pains of having a DWI and going through a trial. And what I'm telling those folks out there is that you may think you're doing the right thing when you get in your car and turn it on, but the police may have a different idea, very similar to thinking you're okay to drive after you've had 3, maybe 4 drinks. You may not be, in fact, legally intoxicated, but the police will think you are, and you will get the ride to jail.
Yeah, that's, Uber and taxis, that's the way to go.
That's certainly what I recommend.
Yeah. Listen, I want to focus now for just a few minutes on the dram shop. And when we say dram shop, what I'm talking about is the bar owner and bar server's responsibility in this whole scheme of thing. And, of course, that's not something that you necessarily deal with, but I do. And what we see oftentimes at these bars will serve folks who are obviously intoxicated. They've had 10 shots. I just got resolved a case the other day where the guy had 10 shots of Jack Daniels in a 2-hour period plus 3 beers. Now, obviously, he was wrong. He ran a stop sign, ran into my client, and almost killed her. She's a very fortunate young woman. But the fact is that this bar served him that much liquor. At least from my perspective, the bar has to take on some responsibility, and the law says they do at some point. Have you ever run across those situations in your practice?
Yes, occasionally, and you're correct. But from a criminal standpoint, if someone is overserved, that's not a defense either. So
right.
That's I hear that occasionally, oftentimes from youthful offenders, oftentimes from individuals who aren't even old enough to drink. And they will get a DWI, possibly hurt someone, and their parents will come with them to my office and want them to be absolved of their criminal responsibility because the bar shouldn't have served them.
Yeah, and that's where I take over. I can come in and represent the person who was injured against the bar as well as against your client, in essence, to hold everybody accountable and responsible. And it's been my experience that juries will not hesitate holding bars responsible because many times they've clearly overserved this person. But, one of the other areas that you've got to be very, very careful about is underage drinking. And while, some people don't realize this, you have a Christmas party at your house. The punch is flowing, and one of your guests leaves the party and has a wreck. Now, we were talking about that this morning. Texas doesn't recognize, as long as you were a social host and didn't charge any money for the drinks that you served them, they can't come back against you for over-serving your guest. That changes everything if they're a minor.
Absolutely. And from a civil standpoint, I'll leave that to you. From a criminal standpoint, it's a crime to provide alcohol to someone underage.
Well, and we see sometimes these parents. You've had kids. I've had kids. Thank God we've gotten through.
Yes, absolutely.
Through that period in our lives. But the cool parent that will let the kids congregate over at the house and turn a blind eye to while they're drinking beer in the garage or something like that. You can't turn a blind eye to that. I mean, not just for the social and moral purposes, but from legal aspects. You are, as a social host, allowing minors to drink, and they go out and hurt somebody. You, the parent, are going to be responsible for that ultimately.
Yes, and that's extremely irresponsible behavior. And certainly with children of other parents involved, just something that shouldn't even be considered. If it's your own child, still, that's something that everybody has to make a decision for themselves. But just remember, if you're going to let them drink inside your home when they're let's say they're in college and they're 19 or 20, you better lock up those car keys and you better make them stay there. That's just an awful. That's just pouring gasoline and hoping somebody doesn't have a match.
Well, it is, and it sends the wrong message. I mean, we preach with our kids: do not drink and drive. I will come pick you up. Here's, I remember always keeping a $20 bill in my daughter's purses just so they could call a taxi. If they got, in fact, they probably still have that $20 or they spent it at Jack in the Box, but just so they could call a taxi if they found themselves out in that way. And I think it's very important that we as a society have to train and teach our children and our friends. You can't drive. You can't. A friend doesn't let a friend drive drunk, and we've got to do it because the consequences are so radical and so severe.
And while we're speaking of children, most people don't realize this, that if you've never had a DWI, but you have an opportunity where you've had 3 or 4 drinks and you maybe you got off early and you came home and you realized that your 10-year-old needed to be taken to soccer practice. If you get pulled over, you've just committed a felony, even though it's your first time DWI, because that child is in your car. And if you are intoxicated, you've just committed a state jail felony if they're under 15 years old.
Yeah, it's even if they're your own
Even
child.
if they're your own child, even if there was no wreck, even if there was no harm done to them, even if nothing happened other than a police officer pulled you over for rolling through a stop sign or for going 2 miles over the speed limit.
And guess what? If mom's not home to come get them when the police officer calls, where do the kids go?
Oh, CPS is going to get a call.
And that's just a downward spiral. I mean, so many people find themselves, I think there used to be a feeling when we grew up, when our dads were raising us. Back then, Jerry, I remember you could actually drink a beer and drive at the same time.
A lot of our fathers, unfortunately, we grew up seeing beer between their legs, and that was just not uncommon on the roadways. But at this point in time, the penalties are enhanced for DWIs also if you have an open container of alcohol. So, and that has been the law for many, many years now, to discourage drinking and driving. But you're right. When we were growing up, it was not something that was as strictly as enforced as it is today.
Well, and so we're kind of the crossover generation, we're seeing, we saw one code of conduct and we're trying to impart a different code of conduct on our kids. And, it's been because of the great help of believe it or not, lawsuits, MAD, holding people accountable, holding the bars accountable. We used to go to happy hours in college and have dime beer. Well, Jerry, listen, we're running out of time. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here today. Jerry Wood, one of the best criminal defense lawyers there is. If you ever have a problem in Tarrant County, you've got to call Jerry Wood. You can always count on him. I'm Brad Parker. This has been Bar Talk. Stay tuned for the upcoming program, the Bloomberg Hour. This is AM 1160 KVCE, Dallas-Fort Worth's Business Authority.
Thanks for joining us for Bar Talk with local trial lawyer Brad Parker, the attorney you want but hope you never need.